Algebra II Cram, New York State Algebra II Regents, Common Core, Key Facts, Trigonometric Identities, Formulas, and Equations. Question 11, the tangent of 1/2 x. To order this complete Cram session, inbox me at memedicine@gmail.com. Good luck in Algebra 2, and especially if you have to take the New York State Algebra 2 Regents. All right? Okay. Review question 11. If cosine x equals -4/5 is in quadrant 3, find the value of the tangent of 1/2 x. All right, I'll give you a moment to think. So press pause if you need to and formulate your strategy. All right, let's delve into the solution. The general formula for the tangent of 1/2 x, or 1/2 theta, remember theta and x, these are just, images or symbols that are variables, okay? So sometimes when we have an equation or a mathematical riddle that involves many forms of different x's, we ought to use theta instead. So these two variable variants are interchangeable, okay? So for the solution, I'm going to mostly use theta, although you should be consistent in your mathematical answer on your Regents or in class using one variable. You're probably safer to go with theta when dealing with an angle, okay? So the tangent of 1/2 theta is equivalent to plus or minus the square root of 1 minus the cosine of theta over 1 plus the cosine of theta. So this is the general formula for the tangent of 1/2 theta, okay? So in order to solve this, we obviously need to know the value of the cosine theta. Well, here we're given that value. We're told that it's -4/5. Remember, x and theta are interchangeable, but you should really be consistent with one system. This is my mistake, okay? So now what we can do is substitute the known values and simplify. So the tangent of 1/2 theta is going to be equal to plus or minus the square root of 1 minus -4/5 over 1 plus -4/5, okay? Now this is going to simplify to 9/5 in the numerator because 1 can also be expressed as 5/5, and when you minus a negative number, you're actually adding. So if you add 5 and 9 in the numerator of this fraction, you're going to get 9/5 over 1/5. Again, 1 can also be seen as 5/5. So when you add a negative to a positive, you're going to subtract the -4 from the 5 in the numerator and you end up with 1, okay? This simplifies to the square root of 9. Why? Because you're taking the square root of 9 divided by the square root of 5, and you're dividing all of this by the square root of 1 divided by the square root of 5. So division by a fraction is actually multiplication by its reciprocal. So if you were to multiply 9/5 times 1/5, you would actually be multiplying by 5/1, or 5, and you'll find that the 5's are eliminated, okay? So 9/1, or the square root of 9/1, rather, plus or minus the square root of 9/1 simplifies to 9. And this is convenient because 9 is a perfect square, so this simplifies to plus or minus 3. Now, we have to have the moment of truth. Do we choose +3 or -3? Okay, so since we're told that x, or theta, the angle of interest, is located in quadrant 3, this quadrant right here, this means that 180 degrees is less than x, which is less than 270 degrees. The quadrantial angle 180 degrees and 270 degrees enclose quadrant 3. Okay, so this can be our representative theta. Okay, so this is theta or x. We don't really know the value yet. All right, and so if we know this information and we're trying to actually figure out 1/2 x, we can also make the assumption that 1/2 x is actually going to be in quadrant 2. And why is that? Because if we divide this interval by 1/2, because we're really looking by 1/2 x, we find out that the quadrantal angle 90 degrees and well, it's actually 180 degrees, but begins quadrant 2, so 1/2 x is somewhere in here, and we can terminate in the realm of 135 degrees, which we'll see is like somewhere around here. Okay, so 135 degrees and the interval 90 to 135 degrees is definitely found in quadrant 2. We can't say that it's quadrant 1 because 135 degrees can't be found. So that's how we, in quadrant 1, that's how we eliminate the possibility of quadrant 1, okay? So 1/2 x, or we can call this, you know, our theta 2 is located somewhere in this region, okay? All right, this means, again, that 1/2 x is in quadrant 2, and the tangent of 1/2 x has to be negative in quadrant 2. Why is that? Because we see here that the tangent of theta is actually given by the y value of the ray that the acute the angle makes, divided by the value of the x coordinate, okay? And all x coordinates in quadrant 2 have to be negative. That's why the tangent is going to be negative in quadrant 2. So the angle value that represents theta, or 1/2 x, has to yield a negative tangent because it's located in quadrant 2, because the x coordinate values are negative in quadrant 2, okay? So that's how we decide. We know our tangent value is 3, but we decide that it has to be -3 rather than +3, okay? So the final answer is that the tangent of 1/2 x equals -3. Now, the fun thing is that this can also be solved on a graphing calculator. By carefully considering all the information given in the question stem, you can use your graphing calculator to conveniently solve this riddle. The first thing you're going to do is ensure that you're in degree mode. First, you're going to press mode. That brings you to this screen, and the cursor will be flickering over normal. You're going to press the down arrow once to hover over float. Then you're going to press the down arrow a second time to hover over radian. Then you're going to press the right arrow to hover over the degrees. Now you're in degree mode. You don't need to press enter. All you need to do is press second mode in order to quit. And sorry if you can't clearly see these keys, but just follow the laser and then you'll be fine, okay? All right, the next thing you're going to do is input the inverse cosine function to find the value of the acute reference angle. This reference angle right here. We're not finding theta or x just yet, okay? Because the way our calculators work, it can't tell you this. It has to tell you this first, okay? So the calculator is going to give you a value of theta reference rather than theta or x. The value that we're looking for, theta, is going to be between 180 degrees and 270 degrees. So here you go. So you input the inverse cosine. So what you do is press second cosine of 4 divided by 5, because that's what we're told in the question stem. You don't put in a negative because the calculator can't interpret the negatives, okay? And then you're going to close the parentheses, press enter, and then the answer you get is theta reference or the acute reference angle, okay? Again, the calculator will give you this principal value for the inverse cosine. In other words, you're getting the acute reference angle. But this problem specifies that the angle is in quadrant 3, so we're not looking for the reference angle, we're looking for the actual angle theta or x, okay? Thus, according to this variant of the reference angle formula in quadrant 3, in order to find theta or the value of this x, what you have to do is add 180 degrees to the reference angle to find out the correct angle, okay? So that's how we're going to proceed in order to find the tangent of 1/2 x or 1/2 theta. So the next thing you're going to do is press second negative sign, and this gives you, it recalls the answer, it recalls this answer, and then you're going to add 180 degrees, so press plus 1, 8, 0, and then press enter. And that's going to give you the value of theta, or in this case, x, the angle x. So the actual angle is 216.86, blah, blah, blah. And so that is definitely located in quadrant 3, and that angle value definitely falls between 180 degrees and 270 degrees, okay? So that's our x, but that's not the answer because it's not what we're looking for. The riddle asks us to find the tangent of 1/2 x. So next is the fun part. All you have to do is basically input the tangent of 1/2 theta, okay? And you do this by pressing tangent, so this button right here, of 0.5, so decimal 0.5, instead of writing 1/2, this is just like a quicker interpretation, and then press second negative sign, and that's going to recall the previous answer, okay? And then you're going to close the parentheses by pressing the close parentheses button and enter. And there you get your answer of -3. Thus, the tangent of 1/2 x is equivalent to -3. Okay? All right.